Hey there, it's Trisha with Easy Emini Trade, and I was thinking I would go over pullbacks. A few days this week, price just kept going, and when price is doing that, you have to find a place to get on. You can't just say, oh, it's going higher, I'm just going to buy. You wait for price to present an opportunity to get on board. And I'm going to show it to you on the NQ, but you can look for the same things on the ES, the 6E, whatever you're trading, you look for the same things. And you can trade it on tick chart, time chart, range chart. It doesn't matter. It will be the same. So on the entry chart on my right, and then I've got my broader view on the left. So this is Monday. And, per the ebook, all the indicators and settings are exactly as described in the ebook. This is the 22. This is the 9. The blue one is the 9. And then this is an addition and optional. You don't have to do it, but this white one is a 6 EMA. And I'm going to show you how you can use that for further confirmation, especially for pullbacks. So here's the open. And pretty much price had been going up all night long. And when we open, we don't have a kaboom set up because we like our indicator to be just crossing above zero or just crossing below zero with the trend, etc. So no place to get on there. So we'd have to be waiting for a pullback. And a pullback, you can take a pullback to the 22 or you can take a pullback to the 9. The key to remember in taking pullbacks is that you want to make sure, and this is a 9 weighted over here on the broader view, you want to make sure that you have a strong slope on that for the direction that you're looking to take, and then also on the 22. Because the idea is that when you're taking a pullback, you're looking to get in a strong move that's already happening. And if this is just going sideways, let's say, obviously that's not a strong move, and there's no reason to think that you can take a pullback. You'll just have to wait until you get a brand new entry opportunity. So you get a pullback to the 9 right here, and this is just a little after the close, so not too willing to do that, because at this point you don't really know if price is going to roll over or not. So you don't really know that it's a pullback. So price keeps going and it pulls back to the 9 here. You can see it. But what I'd like you to look at is the 6 EMA. You can see the white line here. And notice how it's kind of on top of the 9 and you can't even really see the 9. It's it's just on top of each other. But notice here, after this bar here, you can actually wait to get in on this bar right here, the one after. But notice the 6 EMA. It's going higher, and it's on the top side of the 9. And just looking at that, that could give you good indication that you could probably take that as a pullback and get to the next area of resistance. The other thing that you need to make sure of is that your line on your indicator is heading higher, and that your histogram, if it's red, meaning under zero, and you're looking to take a buy, make sure it's getting smaller. Or if it's green, you need to make sure it's for a buy, that is, it's above zero and it's getting larger. So one of those or both of those, you can't just see the pullback and not look here, because, like for example, here when you get this first pullback to the 9 here, notice everything's heading lower. And if you use a stochastic, that can also be helpful. You can notice here, this very first pullback here, everything's heading lower on that as well. So just make sure everything is heading in the same direction. If you look over here to your broader view, this is actually the bar that you wind up getting in on right here. And I'll tell you the time, it's 10:03, I believe. But notice you have a lot of space between price and our moving average here. And price is going to find a way back there, whether it be consolidating sideways until the moving average catches up to price, or price pulls back to the moving average. Either way, notice here, same thing. You get some space in between price and the moving average here, and what does it do? It finds its way back. I do want to show you when you might not be too interested in taking pullbacks. Of course, you never know how many pullbacks are going to work, but usually the first two work pretty well, and then on the third pullback, it usually does not go as far. So just keep that in mind. The first two, you're likely going to get more out of it. than like the third one. The third one, like for example, right here, this would be another pullback here, pullback to the 9. The 6 EMA is actually heading higher. It's on the top side of the 9. But notice this. This is just kind of going sideways here. This is getting smaller. The histogram is getting smaller. But, you know, in looking at that, you're probably going to assume that it's probably not going to go that far because it's the third one. It does work out. It probably works out for 2 points. You get in here, and on this bar here, you wind up with your 2 points. So it works nonetheless. But just keep in mind that on that pullback, you know, everything's heading lower, lower. And notice the moving averages are starting to converge on each other here again, just like here where we talked about, and now it's spending some time underneath. The other option too is I really do like pullbacks to the 22, but if you take pullbacks to the 22, which is this green line here, you need to make sure that you're still waiting for the same things with these two moving averages. Make sure the 6 EMA has crossed above the 9 and everything's heading higher. So don't just get a pullback to the 22 and think that you're going to take it. Look at the whole picture, because when you start to see this where our longer term moving average is flattening out and where the moving averages don't have as much space and they're just kind of back and forth here, above, below, the likelihood is that you're in for a larger pullback or a direction change. And here's one in the opposite direction. You do get a brand new kaboom setup up here, but you're in an uptrend at that point, so I wouldn't be interested in that. But once it takes off lower, and this was at 212, but once it takes off lower and it keeps going, you'll notice here you have a strong slope on your longer moving average here. Your 22 you have a strong slope on. Everything's heading lower, so you wait for a pullback, either a pullback to the 9, which is the blue one, or a pullback to the 22. So you get your pullback to the 9 here. Your 6 EMA is still underneath the 9, and they come together, and now they're separating again. Your histogram's getting larger in size here. Your line is heading lower. Everything's heading lower, so you're good to go. And if you're looking at the stochastic, that's heading lower also. So here you get another pullback opportunity. Pulls back to the 9. You do have some support here, so you'd want to wait to get closed below that. So you actually get that here. Your 6 EMA and your 9, everything's doing what it needs to do, and it works to get you your first target. I'd like to also point out, remember we talked about the space between price and the moving average here. Notice it goes lower, which is this first move here. Then it finds its way back on that pullback to our moving average on our longer term. That's where we get here. Pulls back and then new entry. So you might find that helpful as well if you pay attention to that on your broader view. Okay, so I just want to show you pulling back to the 22 as well. Nothing's different. Everything that we just talked about remains the same. This is the 5th, and I did want to show you here. You actually, we open and it's crawling higher. You do get a pullback here, technically to the 22, and the 6 EMA is on the top side of the 9, and everything's heading higher, higher, higher. My issue with that one would be that my longer moving average here on my broader view is right above my head, and we find that, well, I find that this will typically act as support and resistance unless you're in a range. So I'd like to see it get through that before I take it. I don't have to have price close above it in this case, but I need to have price trading through it, and this would have me getting in right underneath it, so not quite interested in that. So you actually have a couple options. Here you do get a pullback to the 9 right here, and that is at right at 10 o'clock, and I'm sure that there was news at 10, so it's up to you if you trade around that or not, but let's just pretend there wasn't news. So you get a pullback to the 9 here, and the 6 EMA is above the 9 and heading higher. You have a good slope here on the 22, good slope here, so you're good to take it. again, if you trade on the news. So here, this is what I wanted to show you, was pulling back to the 22. When you get a pullback to the 22, you're going to notice that your 6 EMA is likely going to cross under your 9. So what you'll want to do is just wait for it to cross back above it. It's up to you. I mean, you can certainly just trade the price action and just see the pullback and be willing to take it a bar sooner. It's totally up to you. But I would prefer to see that 6 EMA across above that 9, getting in here. And, this took off and, went for a long way. That was a trade that we actually took in the room, and depending on how you managed it, you could have wound up with more than 10 points on that final third if you exited in thirds. So it just depends on how you managed it. So I hope that helps, and if you have any questions, you can send me an email. And if you want more information on the setups, you can go to www.easyminitrade.com.